Welcome to another episode of Erik Wait Whiskey Studies, and in this video I'm going to talk about Raasay Distillery and review this Raasay Cask Strength Hebridean Single Malt Scotch Whisky. So in April 2024 I made my fourth trip to Scotland and I visited Western Scotland and the Isles. Absolutely beautiful and very different from the rest of Scotland. Previously, in my previous trips, I had been to Islay twice, Isle of Arran, Speyside, the Highlands, all the way up to Orkney, and in the Lowlands, as far south as Bladnoch and Annandale. When you go off to the Western Islands, the Hebridean Islands, you gotta have some patience, you gotta have some courage, narrow roads, winding roads, potholes, a lot of coos, that's what we call cows, a lot of sheep, some of them might be on the road, but if you have some patience and if you time it correctly, because in order to get anywhere you got to take a ferry, it's probably going to take you longer to get from here to there than you originally anticipate, regardless of what your smartphone says, because you have to time it right to get onto the ferry. But the ferry rides itself are quite scenic, and it's quite an event as you're approaching an island, whether it's Islay, Arran, Orkney, or Raasay. So I'm going to tell you more about this whiskey, but first I want to share with you my photos and videos from my trip to Raasay Distillery, and give you a little bit of a tour, and give you more information about the distillery. Isle of Raasay Distillery is located on the inner Hebridean Isle of Raasay in northwest Scotland. In 2017, Isle of Raasay Distillery opened as the first legal distillery on the island. The distillery is owned by R&B Distillers, which was founded in 2014 by Alistair Day and Bill Dobby. They have one wash still and one spirit still. The spirit is matured at the distillery on Raasay and a variety of oak casks. Isle of Raasay Cask Strength 2024 release Single Malt Scotch Whisky. It is lightly peated. It is aged in ex-rye, ex-chinkapin, and ex-red wine cask. It has natural color. It is non-chill filtered. It is bottled at 61.3% alcohol by volume. So, as you saw from the notes, it's a young distillery. If you're going to produce a young spirit and release it, there's some choices you got to make. Either you're going to be putting something out there that's basically going to be like new make, or you're going to try to bury it in peat and try to cover up the youth notes. I don't like a new makey whiskey. New makey, I mean, it still tastes like new make spirit, which you're going to get saccharine, fake sugar note, and kind of a bizarre melon character. You can use peat smoke to cover it up and go heavily peated, but basically what ends up there is it's just peat, smoke, and smoke, and smoke, and smoke. I think Raasay has done an excellent job in bringing some balance to the spirit. I don't get any new make characteristics in terms of powdered sugar, saccharine, that melon character, or some are even, it could be like baby vomit, which is really gross. They have chosen some casks that most Scotch distilleries aren't using. That is rye and some wine casks. Yes, a lot of distilleries are using red wine casks, but they've done it really well with this in that there's almost like a spicy, smoky fruit sandwich. You get on the front just a waft of smoke. It's just light to medium smoke. Pretty intense spice going on there. Definitely some pepper. Maybe a little bit of an herbal note. A slight chocolate going on in there. And a little bit of red fruit. Now this is cask strength. So I'll do it neat. But this really is a whiskey that takes some water. Quite sharp on entry. It has a pretty good bite to it. But at this ABV, what do you expect? And it's a new spirit. Peat smoke can sort of soften the bite of a new spirit, but it's still pretty intense. In fact, I have almost a numbing sensation, as if a little bit of anesthesia has been put onto my tongue. Intense pepper, slight herbal note, and then this red fruit character comes in, and then some like light chocolate, and then the pepper returns. So it's like spice, peppery on the entry and on the finish, and in the middle, sandwiched in between those two, you get a little bit of that red fruit note from the wine cask, and a hint of chocolate and smoke. The smoke actually is sort of an underlying characteristic from the front, in the middle, and into the finish. Now let's have it with a little bit of water. This is really what brings it all together. Neat. The characteristics are more separated and distinct, but when you add a little bit of water, it brings them more together and makes it a little bit more harmonious, and more of the fruit is brought to the front and into the finish, and the spice is carried all the way through. I want to give this just a second before I dive into it. So, the distillery is way out there in the boonies. And from a practical standpoint, you kind of go, wow, is this going to make it a little challenging? Because it doesn't have the climate for growing barley, which means you're going to have to import your barley. And all your supplies, your employees, the population there on the island is really, really, really low. So from a practical standpoint, building a distillery way out there on some island, you kind of go, wow, that's kind of crazy. But once you visit there and you see the beautiful scenery, it's an oasis. It's a travel destination. You would want to go there, not just to visit the distillery, but maybe spend a day or two there, doing some hiking up in the hills, seeing some of the ancient ruins there, and then eventually visiting the distillery. They have a really, really, really nice tasting room there, and of course you're going to want to do a tour. Now, I'm starting to see more and more Raasay out on the shelves at major chains, which is good, because Raasay is now, at least for 2025, on the list of potential distilleries for the Council of Whiskey Masters Master of Scotch exam for 2025. Raasay has been added to the list. So that sort of sharpness on the nose brought down just a little bit. Sort of a milk chocolate. The pepperiness is still there, but it's been tamed a little bit on the palate. It's sweet on entry and sweet all the way through, but has a nice counterbalance with the spice. If you're not really into spicy foods, maybe this isn't your scene, because it is fairly spicy. That's coming from the rye casks. But it's spicy all the way through. Nice underlying note of chocolate and a red fruit character underneath. If you've ever had a Mexican chocolate, I'm in California, we can get that kind of thing there. Mexican chocolate can be spice added to it as well. So imagine you take some chocolate and add some spice to it. I don't know, some pepper or whatever. you're kind of getting that note. It's much more balanced, much more harmonious. I like it more on the front, in the middle, and into the finish. As I'm talking now, I'm still getting spice. Smoke goes into the finish, but it does dissipate because it's moderately peated. The biggest note there you're getting on is the spice. Although it comes across as youthful, it doesn't have any new making characteristics. It doesn't taste like something that just came off the still. So with the use of the cask and the peat has been very well managed to counterbalance those youth notes. So if you like a young whiskey, but you don't like new making characteristics, you're gonna like this. If you like just a waft of smoke and not necessarily always just a peat upside the head, you're gonna like this whiskey. This moderate peat character, I think, is becoming the distinctive for the Western Islands, whether you're talking about Torvig, Talisker, Raasay, and so forth. So Islay, heavily peated, the Hebrideans, Northern Hebrideans, moderately peated, and then you can take that characteristic all the way up to Orkney, up to Highland Park. The finish on this is extremely long. Very, very, very long. You can take a sip from this, probably sit here for 5 minutes, and you still be tasting it. What I'm getting right now, as I'm talking, there's still a little bit lingering of that fruit character and the spice. The spice is the dominant character on this. So this is a very distinct and unique whiskey. There's nothing else like it coming out of Scotland. Mainly probably because of the use of the rye cask, giving that very distinctive character. I think it's a brilliant move, a brilliant choice to make. You have sweet and spicy, which is a nice counterbalance. It's sort of the way in which you might use an off-dry wine and pair it with spicy food like Indian food or some Asian foods. Use the sweetness of the wine to counterbalance the spiciness of the food. Same play going on here. It's an absolutely brilliant counterbalance with the sweetness and the spice. I'm looking forward to what Raasay is going to do, or how it's going to come across with more age on it. I would like to see more depth on it in terms of maturation. But as it is now, this is an absolutely spectacular whiskey, and I think it's only going to continue to improve from here. This is going to be a distillery that everybody's going to be talking about. Now, what would I give this in terms of score? I'm going to go like solid 90 points. A solid 90 points, which potentially puts it in the top 10 for my list for 2024. An absolutely fantastic whiskey. All right, if you have tried Raasay, anything from Raasay, let me know in the comment section down below. And to the owners there at Raasay Distillery, you really got something going on here. I highly commend what you're doing. Beautiful distillery, but the whiskey itself can stand on its own. The whiskey itself is as beautiful and as fantastic and surprising and as different as much as an adventure as the distillery itself. This is really, really quite something. I'm probably going to pick up more bottles, which I'll do future reviews of. I've seen them in the local stores, and that's about it. So, if you have subscribed to this channel, I want to thank you very much. If you've not yet subscribed, if you like watching my videos, I would greatly appreciate it. If you would subscribe, hit the like button, and until next time, Slàinte. Hey, don't forget to subscribe and check out these other whiskey videos.